I'm Sheena Larson, and this is my clinical mentor, Dr. Dickinson. Today we're going to be doing a paw and hawk bandage on my dog Kane. So we're going to start. I have everything set up, and we're going to get ready. So I have all of the supplies that I need right there, and I'm going to pretend that Kane has a wound on his left hind. So I'm going to get him used to touching his foot first, because I don't want him to wiggle too much during this. Then after the wound had been cleaned, and if it needed to be sutured or anything, we would apply the bandage. So we would have a piece of telfa. I've already cut it to size. We want to avoid touching the areas. None of the telfa that we have is sterile. So we're going to work with what we have. So I would select it, and I would just place it over top of the wound and gently tape it in place. You're okay, big guy. There we go. Okay, see? I know it feels funny. It's not that bad. And I would want to make sure when I'm bandaging that there's padding in between the toes. So I have the soft roll.
We've already collected off of it.
You're okay, big guy. So I'm just going to put the soft roll in between his toes. There we go. Then I have some 3-inch soft roll that I'm going to use, and I want to start off by putting it in a recurrent pattern. So I want to start off above his toes here, and then I'm going to go down and back, and then I'm going to come back around and back. And then I want to come around his foot here, and then that secures everything in place. And then I'm going to start my spiral pattern, and I want to be 1/3 to 1/2 covering. And I'm going to do that, and then as I approach the hawk, I want to start my figure 8. So I'm going to want to come up, and I'm going to go above and then come around and create the X pattern there, which makes it a figure 8. Come around and up, and I want to move in each time. I'm being careful to not add too much tension, and this allows him a bit of flexibility so that he can somewhat move his leg during the bandage. So there. Now I'm going to repeat that with the cling, and cling can be quite stretchy. I want to make sure that I'm not adding too much tension, and I'm going to do the recurrent pattern again. So I'm going to go down There. Back up. There, and I'm just using my thumb to help hold everything into place. There. And then once again, I come around and I secure everything in place. You're a good boy, Kane. And once again, I'm wanting to start my spiral pattern, and I want to ensure that I'm covering everything over, and I want everything to be neat and tidy, roughly equal things. So now as I'm approaching the hawk, I'm going to start the figure 8 again. So I'm going to go up and over and around, creating that X. There. Oh, you're okay, big guy. Okay. There we go. Oh, is that a good stretch? There we go, and then I'm just going to secure that into place. Now I have the vet wrap, and I'm going to use the vet wrap in the same kind of way. So I'm going to start. There we go, big guy. With the recurrent pattern. So I'm stretching it out there, and that's relieving a lot of the tension. If you go straight off of the roll, sometimes there's going to be too much tension. So going to go up, then down, and I'm covering a bit of the toe each time. There. Then I'm going to come around. I want to make sure that I'm not making the bandage too bulky, because if there's too much bulk, then it's going to put pressure and cause cane pain. So I want to make sure that the depressions are padded, but I don't want too much of the points to be too padded, or that might cause pressure. So once again, I'm making sure that everything is half covered, making sure that it's not too tight. Nice even spiral, because aesthetics matter. And now approaching the hawk, I'm doing my final figure 8. There we go. Creating that X in the front. And I want there to be a bit of padding above that, just so that the vet wrap doesn't cut into his skin. Oh, you're a good boy. Hey? So finally, I have a bit of Telfa, or Tensoplast rather, and I'm just going to use that to secure everything in place. So I want that again to be half on, half off.
Well, just the top, but then we draw.
There's a good boy.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm just going to cut a little strip so that he has a bit of tension or traction. Good boy, Kane.
Almost done.
There we go. So now this is the completed paw and hawk bandage.
Sorry. Good job, bud. There you go.
This is the completed paw and hawk bandage. I can give it a bit of a tug. It's not going to come off easily, but like it's not too tight. I can easily fit fingers underneath. So this would be how he would go home. Depending on what the wound was, the doctor might recommend daily bandage changes if it was wet, but for something that's a little bit more sterile, like if there was a surgery, then he would probably want the bandage removed in 3 days and for them to come back for a suture removal and a recheck in 14 days. I'm Sheena Larson, and this is my clinical mentor, Dr. Dickinson, and this is Ozzy. I'm going to be applying a Metasplint to his right front. I have all of the materials that I need set up beside me so that it's easy to grab. And Ozzy's on a yoga mat so that he's more comfortable. We're going to be pretending that the fracture is in his metacarpals. So it's going to be important to stabilize the joint above and below. And I'm going to hand the camera over to Dr. Dickinson. So we're using a older used Metasplint. Unfortunately, the padding had come across here, so it's a bit bulky, which I don't really like, but we're going to make it work because that's what we have. So I want to make sure that his paw can fit inside and that there will be room for the casting material, or the padding rather. Ideally, it would go up a little bit farther, but since this one's used, we're going to make it work. If it goes up, then it helps to stabilize the elbow as well, and it puts less pressure on the bone. So to start off, I'm going to apply stirrups. So I'm going to apply to the lateral and medial aspect. And I'm going to use a tongue depressor here to keep the tape from sticking. Ozzy's being a very good boy. Onto the medial aspect. There we go. So I have the soft roll, and that's what I'm going to be using. I'm not going to be doing a recurrent bandage because we want to keep the third and fourth digit visible. So then that way we can monitor for any swelling or anything. Like if the nails were start to pull apart, then we know that the toes are swelling and the bandage may be too tight or it's slipped or some other issue. So I'm going to start off with the spiral, making sure that the two toes are visible. And when doing the spiral, I want to make sure that half to 2/3 of the previous spiral are being covered. And now that I'm approaching the elbow, I want to do my figure 8. So I want to go ahead, and then I want to come out above the elbow and then back down. And that creates a little bit of an X on top. I want to go and I want to cover that up a little bit more. Over. And just like that. And then that provides cushion for the elbow. And I want to move up a little bit higher. Then I'm going to work my way down. Since this is a splint, I want to make sure that there's plenty of padding. I don't want to pad the elbow too much because that can cause pressure and that could cause pain. But I know that the splint is going to be sitting here, so I want to fill in these gaps down here. So I have a bit more soft roll. And that there makes his leg a nice even width so that it can fit in here nice and snug. This is a secondary bandage material. There is no open wound, so there's no dressing directly on it. But this is providing extra padding and support. Same with the stretch cling here. So once again, I'm going to be, whoop, hey, you're doing good, bud. Starting at the bottom, making sure that the third and fourth digits are visible. And I want this to be snug, but I don't want it to be tight. Like, I don't want to really stretch, but I want to make sure that everything stays in place. I want to make sure that I'm not wrinkling anything over because that could cause an extra pressure point. And now that we're up at the elbow, I again want to make the figure 8 above. There we go. So now that everything is secured, I want to fit my splint. So I just want to make sure that everything is snug. I want to make sure that the toes aren't going to be sticking out because if the splint starts slipping and it pulls ahead, then it's no longer being isolated and it's going to put pressure on his toes. So I'm just going to have 3 additional pieces of tape that I'm going to tape the splint on. You're a good boy, Ozzy. There we go. So I'm going to make sure that everything is there. And I'm pretending that the fracture is somewhere in here, so I want to go below that. And I want to make sure that the tape is on snug but not too tight. I don't want to really be pushing it in, but at the same time, I don't want too much buckling when I push down. And then if the fracture is here, I also want to make sure that I've gone above it. And then finally, just for extra, because I don't want this moving around and sliding, to stabilize the top. There we go. So if I press down too much, I'm not getting too much buckling from the tape. So now that I have the splint stabilized, I want to secure my stirrups, and this helps to make sure that everything stays on, stays where it's supposed to. Even with the thing, it's stayed a bit. So, whoop, you're okay, Oz. There we go. So I'm just going to take, oh, you're okay, Oz. So I'm just going to take the stirrups and twist, and I want this to go at an angle around, and this helps to stabilize everything in place. And I'm going to do the same for this one. Stay there, Oz. You're being very good, very patient with me. Okay, so just a twist, and I'm going to have the stirrups crisscross at the back, and that helps to make sure that the splint is attached to the bandage material.
Right, good boy.
Good boy, Ozzy. Okay, we're almost done, but I promise. So this helps to make sure that everything is nice and secure. So now I have my vet wrap, and we're going to also start this off in a spiral, making sure that the toes are visible. And I'm just going to go around for aesthetics around the bottom. There we are. Don't worry, Ozzy, we're almost done. So I'm going to do the spiral up the leg, making sure that I'm covering 1/2 to 2/3. I want to make sure that it's snug but not too tight, because I don't want to cause him any pain by cutting off circulation. Pulling it off like this helps to relieve some of the tension. Ozzy's being very good. Good boy, Ozzy. And I'm running out of vet wrap, but I want to start my figure 8. For aesthetic reasons, I just want the vet wrap to match. There we go. Good boy, Ozzy. Okay, so figure 8. Now I want to go up. I want to leave a little bit of a gap at the top here so that the vet wrap doesn't cut into his skin. So I'm just going to go there and around. And there. Now I have some Tensoplast, which I'm going to put on over top. Nothing here is too tight. I can still get my fingers in. It's not going to come off. I want to make sure that half of the Tensoplast is on the bandage and half is on him. When I'm taping this, I want to make sure that I'm not going to be pulling any of the hair on the inside here, because that could cause him pain. So I want to make sure that I'm just securing everything there in a non-painful manner. And I'm going to give him just a little traction pad. Well, we're good, Oz. You get a treat after. Okay. There we go. And now you can still see that the 2 toes here are visible, the 3rd and 4th digits. So then that way even the owners would be able to monitor for swelling. So if how the nails are together here, if they were to start to push apart, then we know that it's swelling and we would need to check to see what's going on, remove the splint and assess the situation. Now I'm going to remove the splint. We're going to say that it's been on, everything has been nice and clean and dry, and Dr. Dickinson wants to have the splint removed. So I would just use my bandage scissors, and I would start from the top. And I would just cut off that. I'm going with this over the splint so that I'm not pushing down not pushing down on Ozzy and causing him pain. There we go. And then I would want to do the same here through all of the different layers. Now that I can see where I'm going and what I'm doing. I have more padding down here, so it's a little bit thicker to cut through. You're being very good, Ozzy. Good boy. And as you can see, I've cut through all of the layers. I can slide that off. Ozzy's helping me because his leg isn't actually broken. Making sure that it's free of all of the different tape, that the stirrups, oh, you're okay, Oz. I know. The tape is a little bit stuck from the stirrup, so I'm just going to use a little bit of alcohol. I don't have to be worried about any wounds or anything. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of alcohol on this one here so that it comes off nicer. Okay, there's a good boy. Okay. Same with up here. So I have completely removed the splint, and now I can clean up everything in this area.